So now on to IP in the news, and now we're talking something completely different, another type of theft, perhaps.
It is.
We have Google using technology from another company, and this company took Google to court with their patents, and they won a verdict of $20 million. The name of the company was EcoFactor, and they basically Google's Nest technology was interfering with their patents, right?
Right. And we found this at Reuters. It was an article by Blake Britton, just to give full disclosure, give credit where credit is due. But basically, Google just said, well, we want to take this energy efficient technology that this company developed and use it for Nest. And, too bad for them. We're Google. We're going to do it.
Yeah. And I think the money quote from this article, though, that I really love, the attorney's name was Reza Mirazi. And I don't know Reza, but what he said just, I think, nailed it. He said, the only place in the world that a small but innovative company like EcoFactor is on equal footing with Google is inside a courtroom in front of a jury. So I really like that, because at least with intellectual property, you have a tool to fight with large companies that are much bigger, and that's what the IP system is supposed to be about. So that gives me warm fuzzies when I say that. I'm going to have that memorialized someplace. Before, though, we get on to our program, it's time for Richard's Roundtable. I'd like to ask our distinguished guests if you have any thoughts about that story, either story, or any questions about intellectual property in general. So let's start with Eric. Eric, what are your thoughts?
Well, I always love hearing a David versus Goliath story when David wins. So it's nice to hear, we're a small business, and these companies that have unlimited funds have teams of people that are filing patents every day that make it that much harder for small businesses. So it's a welcome win, and it's, great to hear. And thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Do you have any comments on that, Janice?
Well, I like to hear the same stories as well, the David against Goliath. Our company experienced a very similar situation about 2015, 2016. And we were tied up in litigation for almost 5 years with 3 major corporations, multi-million-dollar corporations. So it's unfortunate. I think patents are so important with what you do, Richard, because small companies, they are the innovators. They come up with new ideas, they problem solve, they try to find solutions. And if they don't have that protection, then large companies will just come in and do workarounds or just take the technology. And a small business doesn't have a protection without the patents.
Yeah, and I couldn't.
Very well said.
Very well said, and we appreciate you bringing your personal experience into this. And it is expensive, it's distracting, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Of course, we always hope that we can enforce rights without litigation, but sometimes it comes down to that. So, Joe, what are your thoughts?
Well, I too, Richard, very much appreciate you bringing that to the forefront today. As you know, when I first came to you several years ago, I had an idea. And while I had simply an idea, I thought that bringing the idea to the front of what I was doing would immediately put me in a position of having my idea taken, stolen, and misused. So that was the initial premise for why we started to do a patent. And now ultimately, just a few years later, I've been awarded a patent. Yep. And while we're rolling out my product, I have 3 additional patents now pending and hope to basically make a difference in the community and society as a whole. So I certainly don't want to have any of my ideas or my innovations taken from me, misused and misappropriated, because I wasn't properly protected.
That's great, Joe. And yeah, we just
Excellent.
saw the notice of allowance not too long ago. So congratulations on that. And that's
Thank you.
exciting for all of us.
You join a very elite group of people because there are very few people that actually are patent owners.
That's true. That's true. Kenya, your thoughts?
I was just going to ask you, Richard, how hard or how easy is it to prove if someone's actually taken or stolen a patent?
Well, it's usually requires a lot of work to show that. So you have to show that the claims of the patent, and that's the part of the patent that is sort of the verbal fence around the technology. You have to show that the elements of those claims are being met by the infringer, which basically means you have to match up the patent to the technology that the misappropriator is using. And that can be difficult, it can be hard, it just depends on the technology. And so usually there's a process in the courts called discovery, and that each party is required to turn over documents, and then lots of times those documents help prove infringement or not. So as we said, it's expensive and it's distracting, but sometimes you're left without a choice, and hopefully it works out well, because our court systems are always interesting places to litigate. So
Except when you go before a jury, I think your odds are better because they see themselves in you. And so you really do get a fair shake when hopefully most of the time when you go before a jury.
I think so. And I think that's why I like that quote, because he said, basically, you can go through all the machinations, but when the rubber hits the road, it's really standing before a jury and letting normal people decide what's fair and what's not fair. And I think that's a very powerful statement.
Excellent.
So yes, it's now time for us to take a brief commercial break. We'll be right back